this is MJ, and in today's tutorial I'll be showing you how to make our Winter Wonder cable pullover in the mini size. This crochet pattern comes in newborn up to child size 12, and I'll be showing you how to make the 6 to 12 month size in this tutorial. You will need a DK weight yarn for this pattern. I used Mary Maxim Mellow Spun DK weight, and I also used Mary Maxim Prism to show you the sweater done up into different color options. So the Nice Solid, I used Dove for the newborn, and today I'll be working with Mary Maxim Prism in Denim Blues for the 6 to 12 month size. You will need 2 hook sizes for this pattern, a 4mm as well as a 4.5mm, and these are Streamline crochet hooks from Furls Crochet, and you will find the links for the hooks and the yarn in the description box of this video. You will need 2 balls of either Prism or Mary Maxim Mellow Spun to make the 6 to 12 month size, and in the description box you will find yarn requirements for all the sizes. This video is not intended to teach you how to crochet. We're just working through the specific steps of this pattern. It is an intermediate level and requires knowledge of front post double crochet stitches, and we will be twisting them, so you'll be skipping and then working back into the skip stitch. You can slow down the tutorial if you're finding the speed is a little too quick. You can click on the gear icon, which is below the video, which is the settings, and you can adjust the speed. So let's begin with our 4mm crochet hook, and I'm working on the 6 to 12 month size. So put a slip knot on your hook and begin with a chain of 7. Now we'll work in the second chain from the hook. So there's 1, 2, a single crochet. So go through the chain, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. And work single crochet stitches across your chain. So you'll have a total of 6 stitches. If you want the collar to be a different width, you will just need to adjust that starting chain. I'm going to chain 1 and turn, and then we'll work single crochets through the back loop only. And the entire collar will be worked this way. Chain 1 and turn. So you can follow along with the size that you're working on, and that will tell you how many to chain and also how many rows that you want to work. For the 6 to 12 month size, I'm going to be working a total of 68 rows. So I'm going to continue working my rows off camera, and then when I have that complete, I'll meet you up for the next step. Okay, and then we're going to slip stitch it together. So I'm going to chain 1. You can easily count also your rows by 2. So I count by the ridges. So each ridge accounts for 2 rows. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And you want to make sure that you have 68 or the number of rows for the size you're working on. So now I'm just going to put my right sides together. And I'm going to slip stitch. Now I'm going to go through the back loop only over to that starting chain, working a slip stitch. Next stitch, going to chain one, and now I'm going to flip that seam to the inside. Now I'm going to change over to my 4.5 millimeter hook, and I'm going to work around single crochet stitches, and I'm going to do 1 single crochet per row. So a total of 68 for this size. So I've done 4 so far. And if you can see here, I'm going through this thicker section. And then I'm going to go through this section here where there's just the loop. Then you'll be back to the row that is thicker. And then the row where there is just the loop right here. And that will help keep you on track to make sure you're working 1 single crochet per row. So I'm going to continue that around. So once we get all the way around, we're going to slip stitch to join. And then we are going to chain 3 and 1 DC double crochet in the first stitch. So this is our beginning V-stitch, and next we'll be working across our right sleeve, and I'll be working a total of 14 double crochet stitches. So to work our double crochet, we're yarning over, going through the stitch, pulling up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, and I'm going to work that across 14. Okay, and in the next stitch, I'm going to work a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet to complete a V-stitch, and then I'll be working 18 stitches across. Okay, I've worked across 18 stitches for the front. Then I'm going to work a V stitch in the next stitch. So a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And now I'll work across a total of 14 double crochets for our left sleeve. And we'll work a V in the next stitch. And then we'll work a total of 18 stitches for the back. Okay, so now I'm going to slip stitch in our V stitch to join, and just keep that slip stitch loose. We will need to work into that as we come around the next round. Now I'm going to chain 3 and double crochet in the V. And now make sure you don't miss our very first stitch here. We're going to work 3 double crochet, and then we're going to work a front post double crochet on the next 2. So yarn over, we're going to push our hook down, coming back up. So we're working around the post, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. And now we'll work a double crochet in the next 2 stitches. Okay, and then a front post double crochet on the next 2. 1, 2. And we're going to be repeating this. So a double crochet in the next 2, front post double crochet on the next 2, and then we should be ending with 3 double crochet. 1, 2, 3. And then we're coming to another V stitch. So then when you come to the next V stitch, we're going to work another V. So just make sure to follow along with the written directions for the size you're working on. And now we're going to work a double crochet in each of the next 3. And then we'll begin our repeat, and I like to just double check. So I've done 3. There's the 3 double crochets that account for that, and then we need to do a front post and then a double crochet for the next 2. Front post for the next 2. I'm going to repeat that across to the next V. And now I'm ending with 3 doubles. And a V stitch in the V stitch. Okay, and each section is the same. So we begin with 3 doubles, we end with 3 doubles, and our repeat between is our 2 front posts and then 2 doubles that we repeat across. So I am going to continue with this section, V stitch, and then I will work this section, meeting you up at the end. Okay, so I'm coming up to the end and I have 3 double crochets to work. So there's 1, 2, and here is that slip stitch that was from the previous round. And remember when I said make that loose because we need to work the final stitch. If this chain 3 was a regular double crochet, like our other V stitches, you would be working the last stitch into the double crochet, but because it was the chain that doesn't really have a stitch. So we still need to account for that stitch as if we were working it at one of our other V's. So we need to make sure we add that extra double crochet right here so that we're keeping our stitch count correct. Now we'll slip stitch again, keeping that loose for the next round. And then I'll chain 3, working a V in the V stitch. Now, how our pattern works is that we're always going to be having post stitches separated by 2 double crochets. We can see here we now have 4 double crochets in a row, so we can do our proper repeat. Now, instead of just working a front post in each of the next 2, we're going to cross them so that we get that twisted cable look. So I'm going to skip that first double crochet, and I'm going to work a double crochet in the next. And then I'm going to work a double crochet, a front post double crochet back into the skipped. So front post doubles. Then I'll work a double in each of the next 2. And then we'll skip the next front post double crochet, working a front post double crochet into the next, front post double crochet back into the skipped. Then a double crochet in each of the next 2. Skip the next front post double, working a front post double crochet in the next post, front post double crochet back into that skipped post. Just going to work across the sleeve with you because we're almost to our V-stitch. So we now have these 2 double crochets before the V. So we'll skip and do a front post double and front post double back into the skipped. And then we'll work a V stitch in the V. So each section is now completed the exact same way. So we start out by skipping the first, doing a front post double back into the skipped, then our 2 doubles, and just continue this around. And I'm going to meet you up at the end of the round again to show you how to finish this off. Okay, so I'm working around. I've worked my 2 double crochets, and you can see that we have to do our crossover post stitches. And we have 1 stitch here, and then we have the chain. So what we're going to do is skip that last stitch, and we're going to do that front post around the chain, and we're going to go back and do the front post on the skipped. Okay, so that time we didn't have to work into the slip stitch, but we did have to work around the chain. So now we're going to slip stitch. I'm going to keep that loose, chain 3, double crochet in the V. Okay, so now for this round, we're going to work a double crochet. Then we need to do those front posts, okay? But we need to make sure we kind of separate out the twist, work a front post double, and then a front post double. Double crochet in the next 2. And a front post double in the next 2. Okay, so we're untwisting them, so that they're now straight again. The next round we'll twist them again. Double crochet, next 2, front post double crochet in the next 2, double crochet in the next 2, and I'm just going to keep going because all the sections are worked the same, so we'll work across this whole section. We're almost to the V. Okay, so we have 1 double crochet and then a V in the V stitch. Okay, and we're just gonna repeat that section again. We're gonna keep going around. So we start off with 1 double. And we're gonna get this beautiful change of color working with the Prism yarn, but this looks equally nice in a solid color as well. Okay, so I've worked all the way around and we need to finish with our last double crochet in the slip stitch. And I'm going to slip stitch to join, keep that nice and loose, chain 3 and a double crochet. Okay, and now we'll work a double crochet in the first 2, and then we're going to skip the next post, work a front post, double crochet in the next, front post, double crochet back into the skipped post, double crochet in the next 2, skip the next post, front post double crochet in the next post, front post double crochet back into the skipped post, double crochet in the next 2, let's just work across this section together. All the sections begin and end the same way with the same repeat. So really, once you've done one section, all the other sections are the same. You'll just have more repeats across the front and the back from the sleeve. So now we'll have a double crochet in the next 2. Okay, and then we're to a V stitch, so we work a V in the V. So I'm going to complete that around and we'll meet you up at the end to show you how to finish. Okay, so I've worked all the way around and we're ending with a double crochet in the last stitch, double crochet in that slip stitch so that we have 2 double crochet. We'll slip stitch to join, keeping that loose, and then chain 3 and a double crochet. So now we're going back to where we started. So we have 3 double crochet, and then a front post double crochet in the next 2. Double crochet in the next 2. front post in the next 2, double crochet in the next 2, so this pattern will just continue repeating itself. So we're ending now with a double crochet in the last 3 stitches. And then a V in the V. Okay, so I'm just going to complete that around, and you're going to see your work is going to curl up, but don't worry about that. That's all going to be flattened out with the bands. It's just the nature of doing those post stitches that make it want to curl. So I'm going to continue with all my sections, and I'll meet you up at the end. Okay, so we're finishing up with a double crochet in the next 2. And the last double crochet in the slip stitch. Slip stitch to join and chain 3 and double crochet in the V. So now, this is still a repeat of what I've already shown you, but I'm just going to show you again. So we're beginning our crossover posts with the first 2 stitches. So we're going to yarn over, skip the first double crochet, work a front post double crochet, the next front post double crochet back on the skip stitch, and then a double crochet, a double crochet, and we're crossing them over now. So now you want to follow along with your pattern for how many rounds you need to make for the size you're working on. So we're continuing working this yoke until it's big enough. Now, always with the adult sizes, you know, you can try on as you go. You can do the same thing if you have your the child you're making it for, the baby you're making it for handy. You can always try it on them, or even get their chest measurement so you can make sure that the chest area here is going to fit them with a nice amount of ease. So how this will work is, if you find your V stitches, this will be their armhole right here. So this will have to make sure it's big enough to fit. And then between, this is the chest measurement. So you want to make sure that you keep working your rounds until it's big enough to properly fit the child or baby you're making it for. I also just want to show you the gauge here. You want to try to get your piece to lay out flat, and we'll have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, about 16 stitches in your 4 inches. And if that's coming along as expected here, your sizing should line up correctly with the pattern. You can always adjust your hook size to meet the gauge. So if you have too many stitches, let's say instead of 16, you have 18, you may need to go up a hook size to loosen up those stitches. If, let's say, you only have 14 stitches instead of 16, you want to go down a hook size so that your stitches become a little bit tighter and you can fit more into that 4-inch, okay? The rows, you can always play around with rows. You really want to make sure you get the stitch count correct so that the sizing is properly fitting the child that you're making this for. Okay, so I'm finishing on round 13, which is finishing off with the repeat of round 5. So you should be ending with 2 double crochet, and I'm going to slip stitch. I'm now going to chain 1 and work a double crochet. We're going to skip over the sleeve to the next V-stitch, and I'm going to work a double crochet in the double crochet just past the chain 1 of the V. So you can see on this side of the V we have 3 double crochet. We're going to be working into those stitches. So 1, 2, 3, and a front post double crochet in the next 2, a double crochet in the next 2, and we're going to work across the front. When we get to the next V stitch, I'll meet you up to show you the next step. So I've worked 3 double crochet up to the V, and now we're going to skip this sleeve. So find the next V, and after that chain 1, we'll be working a double crochet, across 3, and front post doubles in the next 2, double crochet in the next 2, and work your pattern across the back. Okay, so I'm coming around. We should be ending with 2 double crochet. We started with that 1, so we're going to slip stitch in that first double crochet to join. Okay, so now we'll chain 1. And what we're going to do here now is start our posts, but we're going to cross them. So I'm going to skip this double crochet. We're going to work a front post double around the next, a front post double around the next. Then I'll work double crochet in the next 2, skip the next front post, work a front post double crochet in the next, and a front post double crochet back in the skipped. So now you can see we've got this separated out. We have our sleeve here, we have our body here. Okay, and we're going to keep working the body now in the round, and then we'll be joining back on to work the sleeves. When we're working top down, we can always alter the length of the sweater. I have just gone with standard sizing for the sizes I've included in the pattern. You can look at the size chart that I've included, and you can look at the schematic if you've purchased the PDF to look at all of the finished measurements. or you can just follow along and work exactly the same number of rounds that I work, or you can make those alterations if you need to. So I'm going to continue that. I'll meet you up over here. Okay, so I'm coming to the underarm. I know it's seeming a little bit odd, but just go with it. We're skipping this double crochet. Back into that one. And then just continue working around in your pattern. Okay, so once you get around, we will slip stitch in our first front post double to join. I'm going to chain 1, and then we'll work a front post double in each of the next 2, and then double crochets in the next 2, and we're just going to continue alternating between twisting our front post doubles and then just working them back out straight. So basically working in this pattern, established pattern we've been doing, but this time now we're just working around, just working the body until it's long enough. And your join is going to stay right along the side. You're not even going to notice it. Okay, so I'm going to continue working the body section until I get it long enough, and then we'll do a join as you go ribbed band at the bottom to finish it off. But next, I'll be working this off camera. I'm gonna jump over to one of the sleeves and show you how to get started with one. So let's take a look at the sleeve. I want you to find the V stitch to the right of your underarm. We're going to have some gapping that you can use the tail to sew. So let's leave a long tail so that we have some tail there to sew up anything we need to. So I'm going to put a slip knot on my hook. I'm going to come to that V stitch. I'm going to join into it. Okay, a chain 1 and a double crochet. Then I'm going to come over and we're going to work across these 3 double crochets. So here's the other V. Okay, so you can see we have a hole here. All we're going to do at the end is sew that, okay, so that we don't have any gapping. So don't worry about that right now. Front post doubles in the next 2, double crochet in the next 2. Okay, so I'm going to continue this way around. Really, this is just like the body, it's just on the sleeve. So I'm going to continue that around and then I'll meet you up on the other side. Okay, so I'm ending with 2 double crochet. We won't be adding anything in that stitch there because we've already added a double crochet right here. So we're just going to slip stitch to join. I'm going to chain 1, and now we're going to be, again, working the same as we did before. We're going to be skipping the first double crochet, crossing these over. And so this, you will just need to sew this at the end, but we can come back at the end to do that. So now we're going to be able to keep working in our established pattern. So we're skipping, working a front post double crochet in the next, working a front post double crochet in the skipped, double crochet in the next 2, skip the next front post double in the next, front post double back in the skipped. Okay, we're working that all the way around. Okay, so I've worked all the way around. I'm gonna find the first front post double and I'm gonna slip stitch to join. Chain 1. Front post double. Whoops. Sometimes you really have to pull them apart to get the right stitch. So there's 1, 2. And now I'm going to start doing some decreases. So how the decreases are going to work is we are going to decrease our double crochet stitches so that we only have 1 stitch. And what we want to do is get that we have decreased between all of the posts, these double crochets, down to only 1 stitch. But what I'm going to do to keep it even is I will decrease these 2, then I'll decrease the last 2. So to do a double crochet decrease, I've yarned over, I'm going to go through the stitch, pulling up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, go through the next stitch, pulling up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 3. So I'll work all the way around now in my pattern until I get to the last 2 double crochet. Okay, so I've worked all the way around. We're going to yarn over, go through, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, go through the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 3. Slip stitch to join, chain 1. We're now going to cross these stitches, so skipping the first post, go back, I keep grabbing things I shouldn't be. Okay, so let's try this again. So now we only have 1 double crochet, but for the next 2 rounds, we're not going to do any more decreasing. So we're just going to work around in our established pattern. So I'm ending with only 1 double crochet. I'm going to slip stitch in our first front post double to join, chain 1, and we're going to work here 1 more round without any decreases. So I'm going to go ahead and work this, and then I'll meet you up for the next round. Okay, so I've worked all the way around, slip stitch to join. We'll get into our pattern. So this time I'm twisting the stitches. One double crochet in the next. And this is how the decrease pattern is going to work. So whenever you come to the next decrease round, so we'll do 2 rounds will be no decreasing, then we'll do a decrease, 2 rounds without a decrease, and then another decrease, and you want to keep moving. So we've already decreased this one, So the next 2 double crochet stitches you come to, we're going to decrease them together. Oops. Go through, pull up a loop, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 3. Okay, so that's decreased now. And I'm going to work all the way around until I come to the last 2 double crochet. And we're going to decrease them as well. And we just keep working the decrease pattern this way until you get down to only 1 double crochet between the posts. So it won't take that long with this size sweater. Okay, so I'm coming almost up to the double crochet stitches. The last 2 doubles. Okay, so we have 1 here, 2 here, so we'll decrease. Work our twisted post stitches. And then, whoops. And we end with 1 double crochet, slip stitch to join. Okay, so just continue decreasing your sleeve and I will pop up how many rounds in total and I will meet you up then for the join as you go cuff. Okay, so I've been working away on the sleeve. I have worked a total of 17 rounds. I have ended with only now I've got 1 double crochet in between our post stitches. So we still have 2 posts, but only 1 double crochet between each. So I'm finishing off with a double crochet. Slip stitch to join. And so this is 17 rounds. Now, if you needed to make the sleeve a little bit longer, you can easily do that. I would just continue working at this size now. We have all of our decreases done, and then you can just continue with some extra length if you need it. Now, this next section also gives you some flexibility on how big you would like the cuff. So I already worked up my other sleeve, and I worked the cuff down that it's a little bit smaller, but if you wanted to keep yours a little bit wider, you can play around with that. Now, this is the 6 to 12 month size. I have tried it on my 10-month-old granddaughter and it fit her well. The cuff isn't too tight and the sleeve is a good length for her, but if this is made for a little boy and maybe he's a little on the bigger side, you could always make the arms a little bit longer and maybe not make the cuff quite as tight. But what I have done is I'm going to continue still with this hook. I'm now going to work a round of single crochets, but I'm going to be skipping the double crochet stitches in between. So if you wanted the cuff a little bit bigger, I just suggest working into those single crochets. So what I have done is worked a single in the first 2, then I skip the next and work a single in the next 2. I skip the double crochet and just work singles in the post stitches. And I'm going to work that all the way around. Okay, so I've worked around 20 stitches. I'm going to slip stitch to join. And now for the cuff, I'm going to change over to my smaller hook, but another simple way to modify it would be to continue working the cuff in the larger hook if you want the cuff a little bit bigger. I'm going to stick consistent with my other cuff, and I'm going to work with the smaller hook. I'm going to chain out 7. And now I'm going to work a single crochet in the second chain from the hook and in each chain for a total of 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now you can see here, this is where we slip stitched. We're going to skip that stitch right here. We're going to work a slip stitch into the next 2. So we don't want to slip stitch in the stitch that has already been slip stitched, okay? Because this row accounts for this stitch. We'll now slip stitch in the next and the next. We're going to turn. I'm going to skip the slip stitches, 1, 2, and then a single crochet through the back loops only. And now I'm working 2 more rows to account for the 2 slip stitches that we just did. Okay, so here is the first row, and this is, I like to count that I do have my 6 stitches, chain 1 and turn. We're going to work back down, single crochets through the back loop only. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then we slip stitch in the next 2. And you can see here, this stitch already has that slip stitch worked into it, so we want to do the next 2. And we're going to have 20 rows for the 20 stitches. So we're just going to keep repeating this now all the way around. So skip the 2 slip stitches, then work single crochets in the back loop. So I'm going to continue working the cuff around the sleeve edge, and then I'll meet you back up when I get all the way around. Okay, so I've worked around. You should be coming that you only have 1 slip stitch for the last stitch there. Okay, so then we'll work back up. So we want to be ending up at the top. And I have 6 stitches in 20 rows. You can always count your rows by 2s, those ridges, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. I'm going to chain 1, and now we're going to slip stitch together. But if I folded it like this, my join would be to the outside. So I want my right sides facing. Now, rather than putting this all inside out, I'm just going to fold that I get my right sides together. It is a little fiddly, but it just saves time. So now I'm going to come over to this side, go through that first chain, and then I'm just going through the stitch and working a slip stitch. Okay, so you want to go down through each stitch. So there's 2. 3. 4. 6, and then you can fasten that off. I always like to leave my tails for weaving in, just to make sure that I don't want any changes before I wheel those tails in, because it's really easy to pull your work back before weaving in tails. But after you've woven them in, it's going to be a lot more difficult. So now I'm going to continue working. I ran out of yarn, so I'm only on to my second ball. I ran out of yarn here, and I want to continue with this ball. Now, working from the inside, I am on this color. So I like to match up roughly the color that I'm on. So either we see how far this would be to get into the darker blue, or you can pull from, or you could pull from the outside. So what I'm going to do is I am going to color match it. So I'm just going to roll off. I prefer to work from the inside of the ball if possible. So I'm just going to get that I am coming to the darker blue. I'm going to do the thumb join just to join these up. So I take my new yarn in beside and I just pinch with my thumb and my finger, wrap around the thumb 2 times. On the 3rd time, I'm just going to go between the tails and my thumb. Then just like to tuck the tails. And then pinch and pull. And I find this yarn does knot really well with it being a roving style. You could do your preferred joining method. So I'm going to continue now working, finishing up my body. And then once I get to the band, I can meet you up again for that section, but it is worked just like we did the cuff. Okay, so I've been working on the body and I have a total of 15 rounds from our yoke. So I had 13 rounds of the yoke and now I've worked 15 rounds of the body. And I'm going to now be finishing off with a round of single crochet, and then we're going to do the join as you go band, just like we did for the cuff. So I'm going to change over to my smaller hook here, just to start pulling the bottom in a little bit more. So I'm going to work single crochets in every stitch. Okay, so I'm going to work that all the way around. Okay, so I've worked around a total of 88 stitches. I'm going to slip stitch in the first single crochet to join. Okay, and now we can do the ribbed band, and I'm going to make it the same as we did here. So we're going to chain out 7. Work a single crochet in the second chain from the hook. Okay, so I have 6 single crochet. We're now going to skip the first stitch, which you can see the slip stitches in. We're going to slip stitch into the next 2. And now I'll work single crochets through the back loop. So I've skipped over the slip stitches and we're just working through the actual single crochet stitches. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, chain 1, and then we'll work back down. It's a good idea always to count so you don't lose a stitch. And we also want to make sure that we have the same number of rows as we have stitches worked around. So we have 88 stitches. We're going to need to work a total of 88 rows. So now if you look here, you can see the slip stitches in this stitch. So we're slip stitching in the next 2. Okay, so we're just going to repeat this now all the way around until we have a total of 88 rows worked. Okay, and that's going to take a little bit of time, so I'll work away at this off camera and then I'll meet you back up to finish it off. Okay, so I'm finishing up my sweater. I do have it inside out because I'm going to show you how to sew the underarm, but let's just finish up with our band. Okay, so because it is inside out, I have my right sides facing, and I'm just going to slip stitch this together. Okay, so to slip stitch, we're going to go over to this side. So I have my right sides facing, and we're going through each stitch. And then you can just fasten that off and weave in the tail. Weave back in the opposite direction. Okay, so now I've already done this arm and I've already got rid of most of my tail. So I just left this one to show you. See how we have this large hole under the arm? All you're going to do is take the tail and your yarn needle and you're just going to whip stitch this. Okay, so I'm just going through the stitch on one side and a stitch on the other side. Okay. Just sewing that hole closed, and then you can just weave this tail. Do that to both sides. You can just weave back in the opposite direction, making sure that tail is secure. Okay, so for the 6 to 12 month size, I use 2 balls, and this is what I have left over. So if your gauge is a little bit different, you should have a little bit of room to make sure you don't run out. If you do run out, then your sweater is coming out bigger, which is okay, but it's always a good idea to just order an extra ball to be on the safe side. You can always use it to make a hat. I have the matching hat pattern for this, the Winter Wonder cabled hat. We have the Winter Wonder cable mittens, and then we have obviously the baby child size pattern as well as the adult pattern. So lots of patterns with the same stitch, and I will be working on a cardigan version as well. So this pattern does come in newborn up to child size 12. So here's the little newborn size. So cute, so tiny, just adorable. And this is the 6 to 12 months. So we also have a 3 to 6 month size. It's going to be a bit in between. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and tap the bell to stay updated on all my new videos and tutorials. Make sure to check the description box below this video for all the links. Thanks so much, guys. Have an awesome day.